If you scroll through social media, family vacations look like core memory material. Sunsets, laughing kids, theme parks, romantic dinners. But if you grew up with or were married to a narcissist, the word vacation probably brings up a very different sensation in your body. Tension, hypervigilance, and a deep, exhausting sense of walking on eggshells. Vacations and family outings are supposed to be about relaxation, connection, and breaking away from daily stress. But in a relationship dynamic driven by narcissism, outings often turn into high-stakes stage productions where the narcissist is the director, the main character, and the sole arbiter of whether everyone is allowed to have a good time. Today, we are going to look closely at what actually happens on these trips, specific behaviors that derail family outings, and how they affect everyone present. Why families lie to the outside world to cover up what happened, and how family members distort their own memories to survive, and why clarity only comes after an extended period of separation. Then we'll talk about the long-term impact on children who learn that hiding the truth is normal and the real dangers of that conditioning. If you've ever felt like your reality was rewritten after a trip, this episode is for you. So, to understand why vacations with a narcissistic spouse or parent feel so draining, you have to understand one fundamental principle. A vacation removes the narcissist's routine, which means it removes their perceived control. In unfamiliar environments, their need for dominance escalates. This manifests in three distinct ways. One, the pre-trip sabotage and micromanaging. The tension rarely starts when you reach the hotel. It starts days before. The narcissistic partner may micromanage packing, criticize itinerary choices, or manufacture an intense argument hours before leaving. By the time the family steps into the car or onto the plane, everyone is already emotionally depleted and operating in survival mode. Two, the unpredictable mood shifts. On the trip, the narcissist demands total control over the itinerary, the restaurants, and the mood. If an activity is explicitly centered around their interest, or if something minor goes wrong, like a long line, traffic, or a waiter forgetting a drink, the reaction is disproportionate. They might throw a silent treatment that lasts for 2 days, ruin a planned event by sulking in the hotel room, or explode over a minor inconvenience. The rest of the family quickly learns that their primary job isn't to enjoy the vacation, it's to regulate the narcissist's emotional state so the trip doesn't implode completely. Three, forced performance. Despite creating an atmosphere of fear or resentment, the narcissist will often demand that everyone smile, pose, and appear ecstatic for photos or in front of strangers. You are required to perform joy on command. If a child looks tired or upset, they are punished for ruining the trip or being ungrateful. The impact on the family? Well, instead of resting, the family experiences chronic nervous system activation. You leave the vacation feeling more exhausted than when you arrived, carrying a quiet shame that something meant to be fun felt like a hostage situation. When you get back home, coworkers ask, "How was your trip?" Relatives ask, "Did you guys have a blast?" And almost instantly the family responds with, "It was amazing. We had the best time." Why do families lie to others about what happened on these outings? It isn't just about saving face, it's a protective coping mechanism. First, it prevents further conflict. If a spouse or child admits to an outsider that the trip was a disaster and the narcissistic individual finds out, The consequences at home can be severe. The narcissist views honesty as betrayal or a direct attack on their reputation. Second, managing social shame. Admitting that a holiday was ruined by emotional abuse feels humiliating. Society pushes the narrative that family trips are joyful, saying, "My partner screamed at us in the hotel room for 6 hours because the dinner reservation was delayed," invites judgment or uncomfortable questions that the victim may not be emotionally equipped to handle. Third, preserving the internal narrative. Lying to others serves as a bridge to lying to yourself. If you repeat the phrase, "we had a great time," often enough to friends and family, it helps numb the pain of what actually took place. This brings us to one of the most fascinating and heartbreaking aspects of narcissistic abuse: memory distortion. While still in the relationship or still living under the narcissist's roof, family members actively reshape their own memories. You focus exclusively on the 10 minutes when everyone was laughing at ice cream and mentally erase the 4 hours of rage that preceded it. Why does the brain do this? The survival mechanism of memory revision. When you are trapped in an environment you cannot immediately leave, acknowledging the full severity of the emotional harm is too overwhelming. Your brain uses memory distortion as a buffer. It rationalizes. It wasn't that bad. They were just tired from driving. Overall, it was a good trip. By downplaying the trauma, you preserve enough emotional safety to keep surviving the relationship day after day. But then comes the post-separation awakening. True clarity rarely happens while you are still inside the dynamic. It usually takes an extended period of physical and emotional separation, months, often years of distance or zero contact, for the cognitive fog to clear. When you step out of the daily survival cycle, your nervous system finally drops out of high alert. Only then does the brain allow the real timeline to surface. You look at an old vacation photo, and instead of seeing a happy memory, you remember the panic you felt seconds before the camera clicked. You recall the details clearly: the threats made in the car, the walking on eggshells, the feeling of walking into a restaurant praying they wouldn't lose their temper. This awakening can feel disorienting and grieving, but it is a crucial milestone in healing. It marks the moment you trust your own perception over the narrative that was imposed on you. Perhaps the most critical dimension of this dynamic is what happens to the children who grow up in these environments. Children do not just observe how their parents behave, they use it as a blueprint for how the world works. When a child grows up witnessing vacation meltdowns followed by forced smiles and public cover-ups, they internalize very specific, dangerous lessons. 1. Truth is secondary to image. Children learn that how things look to outsiders is infinitely more important than how things actually feel on the inside. Authenticity is traded for self-preservation. 2. Emotional self-erasure. Children absorb the idea that their own comfort, boundaries, and emotional realities must be erased to manage an adult's volatility. If they express genuine sadness or fear during an outburst, they are labeled the problem. 3. Normalization of gaslighting and betrayal. When the non-narcissistic parent or family unit insists that dad or mom just had a tough day, but we had fun, the child learns to doubt their own senses. They saw the explosion, but everyone is acting like it didn't happen. This creates severe self-doubt that can persist into adulthood. The long-term dangers: vulnerability to future abuse, high tolerance for chaotic, controlling partners in adulthood, because volatility feels like home. Chronic anxiety and hypervigilance, difficulty relaxing during downtime or holidays in adulthood, compulsive people pleasing, believing it is their personal responsibility to manage other people's emotions at their own expense, and repeating the cycle. They become comfortable with deceit or emotional suppression as standard conflict tools. If you are currently out of that relationship, or if you are looking back on your childhood and realizing that those great family trips were actually deeply distressing, I want to validate what you are feeling right now. It is completely normal to feel a mix of anger, grief, and confusion when the true memories replace the sanitized versions you carried for years. You are not crazy for remembering it differently now. Your mind was simply protecting you until you were in a safe enough place to process the reality. Breaking the cycle starts with telling yourself the truth. You don't have to protect the narrative anymore. You don't have to smile for the photos that hide pain. Reclaiming your memory is the first step towards building genuine peace on vacations and in your life. If this video resonated with you, consider giving it a like and sharing your thoughts in the comments below. Sharing your story helps others realize they aren't alone in these experiences. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next video.